Okay.
Good morning, everybody.
Welcome.
All right. Okay. Hopefully that music is not too loud for you.
I can't hear music.
I can't hear music either.
Can you hear it at all?
Do I need
Okay.
to stop? Do I need to stop sharing mine? Maybe I'll stop sharing mine.
No, it's okay.
Oh,
Okay, you don't have to worry about it. I know what it is. I just thought of it. I know what it is, and it's fine. Okay, good. So we will just say good morning. Play your hype music in your head. We're going to get started here in just a couple minutes. We're going to let folks come in from our waiting room. We are really grateful that you're here to talk about Count the Kicks today and you're spending your day with us. So, as you're coming in, we'd love to know who you are and where you're joining us from. And just as a note, we're going to record the webinar. So we've got everybody muted and cameras are protected so that we can share out this recording. So relax for a couple minutes. We'll let folks come in and we will get started and underway in a few seconds. Now I got to know, Carrie, what's the temperature in Iowa? Let's compare these.
It's cold, very cold. Let's see the exact temp here. 42 and windy.
42.
Feels
So
like 28.
that's crazy.
So yeah,
Half the
not nice.
temperature of where you are, Yvonne. Half the temperature. That's crazy.
I know that is crazy. We're at 82 degrees today, so
That's
nice.
nuts.
But it's gonna rain later in the week. So.
It's supposed to snow here. I won't say that to the Californians. Oh, oh, thank you, Simone. Simone, welcome to the webinar. So we're going to give it one more minute. I see some more people trickling in from our waiting room. We're going to give it just a minute, but we would love to know where you're joining us from, what community you work with, anything like that that you'd like to tell us. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate that you're spending your morning with us. I see Lori. Hello, Lori. All right, it looks like Sylvia, if you want to do, I think we're okay to do the welcome. It looks like our entries have slowed down just a touch. So do you want to go ahead and get started?
Sure. Thank you, Sarah. Good morning and welcome. Thank you for being here for this Count the Kicks learning session. I'm Sylvia Stratford from Madera County Department of Public Health and here with Yvonne Lopez from Fresno County Department of Public Health. As public health nurses, we both serve as perinatal services coordinators for our respective counties. Together, we thank our sponsor, Anthem, for their generous sponsorship to bring this vital information to our healthcare providers, their teams, and community partners. This webinar is being recorded and it's going to be made available via a link and sent through email to all of those who've registered. Let's see. And also a continuing education unit is available for RNs and is earned by staying for the full hour, which will be tracked. An evaluation link will also be posted at the end and will expire at 5 p.m. today. So a general evaluation will also be posted for every attendee. We hope that you can complete it because it really is a vital part of our report that we share with our sponsor and our teams. So thank you for that. And to introduce our speaker, Sarah Coleman joined Healthy Birthday Incorporated as State Expansion Director in March 2023. She holds degrees from Illinois State University, the University of Iowa, and the University of Colorado Anschutz Medical Campus, where she earned her Master of Public Health. During her graduate program, she collaborated with the Iowa Maternal Quality Care Collaborative on the AIM Patient Safety Bundle and authored a grief support toolkit, which is now implemented in hospitals nationwide. With more than 20 years in maternal child health, Sarah has worked as a doula, childbirth educator, La Leche League leader, program manager, and nursing educator. She also served as a classroom teacher, charter school principal, and K through 12 administrator in Denver. In her role with Healthy Birthday, Inc., she supports state partners and expands the Count the Kicks program across the U.S. A dedicated advocate for health equity and lifelong learning, Sarah is passionate about building relationships and advancing evidence-based initiatives like this one. So thank you, Sarah, for being here. And I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. Yvonne, did you want to share? Yep, there we go.
Yep.
There's our here's what's happening today. Here's our learning objectives for you all. Thank you for having me here. Clearly, if I've had 20 years in the maternal health world, I'm only 25. So I need to take that part out of my bio, I think. But I'm so thrilled to be here and I recognize some faces here. So we'll switch over to me sharing my presentation with you today as we get underway. I will tell you that I am very, very comfortable with folks asking questions as we go. And so please feel free to ask questions in the chat. My partner in crime, Carrie, is here. She's going to be watching that chat for me and making sure that I answer your questions. So as I get this here, I think we're good to go, right? Okay. So I do want to just give a disclaimer really quickly as we get underway. We're talking about birth outcomes today. We're talking about stillbirth. And I want you to prioritize yourself and make sure that you are in a space where this information, you're ready to receive it. You're ready to engage with it. So I do want you to take care of yourself. As Yvonne said, we are recording the webinar. We'll share the slides so that you can come back to it if today isn't the day. And I do want to just make sure that you prioritize yourself there. I also want to just thank our partners. We've been able to bring this to Madera County and Fresno County, and those of you who are from surrounding counties. We have the support of Anthem in the state of California, and we're very grateful for that support. So thank you for helping to make that possible. And thank you to Fresno County and Madera County. They took on the lift of the CE and just getting everyone here today. So thank you. As you heard, this is me, and we'll get underway with our content. So some of you I know, some names, I see familiar faces in the chat. And some of you are familiar with Count the Kicks. If you are not, today we're going to be talking about a campaign, and this is an educational campaign that is based on evidence and has been proven as an early warning system for both mom and baby. So when we take a look at our research that's been done on this campaign, when we take a look at fetal movement in general, what we know is that baby's movement can indicate the health of the pregnancy. And so this is where we get our roots in, and we have been privileged to be a part of saving lives across 38 states and 8 countries. And those are that we know of, right? There's a lot of stories out there. And we get, like this morning, Carrie and I just got an email about a brand new baby save in the country of Australia. So this will actually go to 9 countries. And we're so excited about that when people lift that work up. So what I would encourage you as you're working in communities, if you hear stories, please share them with us. We would love to just learn from the experiences. So let's lay out our problem that we're talking about today. We are talking about stillbirth, and this impacts about 1 in 185 pregnancies across the United States. And we know that there are different outcomes for different populations when we take a look at the data. So as we look at this nationally, I want to make sure that we have an understanding that these numbers are not inevitable, but rather they point the direction in which we must do the work. They share with us who our guideposts should be within our communities. Something that we have found to be helpful for us as we do some of the work in other counties in California is just engaging with these community home visitors, engaging with community education centers, in addition to provider networks. It's very important for us to understand. And as we've worked with certain populations in a couple counties, one thing that we've lifted up is working with our Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander populations. And we've learned quite a bit and connected with quite a few groups. So just learning about birth trends, practices, cultural traditions, religious beliefs are very important when it comes to working with stillbirth. So we honor those in the work that we do. As we take a look at the cause of stillbirth, so maybe you're not super familiar with stillbirth, and that's okay. This is the loss of a pregnancy, defined nationally, loss of a pregnancy after 20 weeks of pregnancy. So as we look at what we know about stillbirth, there's much to be learned. We know that not every pregnancy, not every stillbirth will be preventable. So when we think about some of the causes of stillbirth, what we do know, there is a place to make change. So as we think about pregnancy and labor complications, being warned about those early warning signs, say early 3 times in one sentence, just knowing that information is really critical to the health of that pregnancy. When we think about problems with the placenta, there are tests, there are different things that we can do, we can take a look at in order to prevent stillbirth. When we think about birth defects, knowing what those birth defects are, knowing how we can get that pregnancy to delivery is something that we can consider. And finally, just thinking about things like infections. So syphilis has been for the past, we've had our eye on this for several years now. There is an epidemic happening, but congenital syphilis does lead to stillbirth. And what we know about congenital syphilis is it can be treated during that pregnancy. So it's really, really important to be aware of where we can have an impact. So as we get started today, we're going to start we've talked about what the campaign is. We've talked about some of those rates. Let's talk a little bit about research. So we are based on something called the Norway study. Healthy Birthday is our parent company and Count the Kicks is our education campaign. Healthy Birthday was founded by 5 lost moms. And they, in the early 2000s, all of them experienced a stillbirth or very early fetal loss. And they were introduced by their social groups. And what they determined was, as they became friends, is they didn't want, and this is what they say in their words, they didn't want anybody to join their club. So they set out on a path to figure out, was there something that could have been done? They noticed certain threads that were in common with their story. And one of those things was that they weren't told to monitor babies' movements during their pregnancy. So they found this study called the Norway study. Dr. Ruth Fretz, you can see that circle there, sits on our medical advisory board today. She is one of the leads on this study. And what happened is a cohort of pregnant individuals in Norway were taught to pay attention to fetal movements every day. They were taught to journal those movements. So they were kind of figuring out what the patterns were to those movements. And then they were also taught that if they noticed a change in the baby's regular routine of movement, to notify their provider. And then their provider would evaluate and determine if treatment was necessary or just monitoring. So that is what our campaign is based on today. We got our roots in the United States, in the state of Iowa, which is where Carrie is today. She was telling us that it is only 42 degrees there. So in Iowa, we got our start. So about the mid 2013 is where we really got cooking. We have our materials that were available across the state of Iowa. We worked with the University of Iowa and several larger medical facilities doing deliveries. And what we started to see as we did this partnership with the Iowa Department of Public Health, we saw a downward trend begin to happen in the stillbirth rate. And in fact, it was so remarkable. They were seeing a 1% reduction every 3 months for a decade. across Iowa as compared to all of those stillbirth rates in surrounding states. We saw a 39% reduction in the stillbirth rate among Black women and Black pregnancies alone. And so that is something that we absolutely lift up, that this was a success within the state of Iowa and helped us to get those babies here safely. So if you're interested, and we're going to send these slides out, we will send the links here so that you can see those. But we have been published in BJOG and AJOG. So those are kind of those big journals for obstetricians. But just the work that has been done around research has been published. Another study, and something to be aware of that just is a common practice of fetal movement monitoring. One of these studies lifts out that pregnant women absolutely should be educated about being aware of what that fetal movement is, but also to report that. So they need to be told, yes, track it, but also come tell us if there's something going on. So that's a really important step there in the process that we want to highlight, and make sure that everyone knows it's not just monitoring, but actually communicating with that provider. So as I said in the beginning, we have this opportunity where we can lift up baby saves. We acknowledge that not all of this is good news, right? Like, we are losing babies. Families are losing babies in our nation, and that's simply unacceptable. But we do like to highlight when we get stories like this. This is Mabel, her sweet little face. Megan's mom, as you can see from the story, reported that everything was fine in her pregnancy. And this is so often what we hear. Nothing was going on. There were no comorbidities. There were no problems indicated early on with baby's movement. You know, the tests all looked great. And then one day, as Megan was paying attention to Mabel's movements, she noticed a difference. She noticed a difference in that pattern. And so by speaking up and advocating with her provider that she felt like this was different movement, she needed to be evaluated, Mabel was able to be delivered safely because of that. And there was something that was happening. And so we just want to make sure that we keep these stories at the forefront, that these opportunities matter when people are paying attention to movement. And we absolutely must listen to expectant families when they tell us that something is off. So in the research lane, we've also had an opportunity to work with AWHONN. Many of you here, it look like we're nurses. You're probably very familiar with AWHONN. One thing that we've been able to do is release an algorithm with them. So evaluating those changes in fetal movement, we have standardized that. What our research tells us is it's not just telling people to pay attention to fetal movement, but we have to standardize the way that we teach and respond to concerns about fetal movement. So this is really important. Carrie's going to link in the chat for you a link to our CE opportunity that we've built with AWHONN. And yes, there is a small cost for that. And if you're interested in having this in your organization, please let Carrie or I know. We can absolutely help bring this opportunity to larger facilities. But I do want to highlight something very important that you see here is that this provides clinicians with that structured guidance. So I have worked in labor and delivery. I know that there were colleagues of mine and that had different ways to respond to concerns in fetal movement. Sometimes it looked like, let's just give you a candy bar or a Sprite and see what baby does. And while well-intentioned, research tells us that is not what we should be doing. We need to immediately evaluate for NST. The provider has to be involved. Evaluate for NST. We don't want to mask the things that may be happening with baby. And when we introduce things like sugar substitutes, that's what we're going to do. We're going to mask how baby is really doing. So we have to standardize these responses so that all people are treated in the same way. And when we do that, we eliminate bias, right? So this is a really important piece of information. I just also will tell you quickly, I noticed we have some health department folks here. We've been recognized as a best practice by AMCHIP. And so what does that mean? That means that we have been lifted up by a national organization saying that this work is being done. It's rooted in equity. It's rooted in evidence. And so there is actually a stillbirth outcome measure. For those of you familiar with HRSA and Title V funding, we've worked to get that stillbirth outcome measure available. So states can really pay more attention to the stillbirth crisis. And that is something that we are so proud to be a part of. We often get asked, staying in the research lane, we often get asked about anxiety. This is probably the number one thing that I hear is like we don't want our patients doing this because they'll just become more anxious. And to that, I would say, first, we have some research that tells us that almost like when you look at this, yes, you're going to have the one or two patients that are just going to be anxious, and that is okay. Right? Like that's okay. We will have folks that do experience anxiety because they're paying attention to fetal movement. But by and large, as you can see, our research tells us this is actually the opposite, that this gives confidence to those parents and who may be more anxious about their baby. This gives them the confidence to know and understand what their baby's normal pattern is. And so that makes a difference in just being enabled to listen to their own data, to their bodies, to be paying attention to that, to know without a shadow of a doubt what their normal is. That will actually lessen that anxiety and increase feelings of bonding with baby. So we do want to highlight some of that research around anxiety. All right. So I've said a lot about that. I don't see any questions in the chat yet, so I'm going to keep going. Let's talk about how you can implement Count the Kicks. So I said this just a little while earlier ago. You probably caught this. It is really important that we're paying attention to movement because this is the way baby communicates. They do not have cell phones in utero. Wouldn't it be nice if they did? They do not. So this is the way that they're communicating is by those movements. And we know that often those earlier warning signs and changes in that pattern of movement, that's what we need to be paying attention to. So who better to speak to that than the person who is monitoring that movement every single day? How we want to do this is we want to get a routine with this. We want patients to start counting in that third trimester. If they're high risk, you can back them up a few weeks. But essentially, that third trimester is the opportunity where those expectant moms really kind of understand what baby's movement is, and they can distinguish between movement and hiccups. So while we're known as Count the Kicks, we are going to evaluate all kinds of babies' movements, all those in utero jungle gym things that happen. I had children that I felt like they'd put a finger in my rib, and they'd swing. I like, honestly, I felt like that movement was happening for my pregnancy. It wasn't just nice, low rolls and gentle kicks. I had acrobats in utero. So we want to teach expectant parents what they're looking for. The reason why we don't count hiccups is because those are involuntary movements. So we are focused on those voluntary movements. Baby has that neural capacity and can change their movement pattern by themselves. That's what we're looking for. And ACOG does recommend this counting begin in the third trimester. So we are absolutely in line with them on that. So this is a handy guide, and we have a link that we'll put at the very end of our presentation. You can actually, some people like printed materials and other folks like to have digital resources, and some people are in the middle and they want both. So this is an opportunity for you to see what you can give to your patients digitally. And let me run through some of these steps. The first thing that we're going to do, and Carrie, I'm just realizing, I don't think I have my wristband. I'll have to look as I'm talking. Oh, I do. Okay, we're good. Let's pick the method. So you heard in my introduction that I spent some time in education. So I like understanding how people learn and how they want to engage with something. So that's the first thing we're going to do. We're going to teach them about the app, which is totally free. And by the way, I have a giveaway to do today. So if you don't have the app on your phone, download it as I'm talking. Actually, we have multiple giveaways to do today. So make sure that you have that app on your phone. Carrie just threw the link in. Okay, going back. So we want to pick a method. Our app is one method that's completely free. Everybody uses phones, but not everybody will want to count on their phone. So therefore, we have something called our wristband. This is our fetal movement monitoring wristband. And we'll talk more about that in resources. We also have our printable kick counting charts. Those are available for free on our website. We will share that link with you as well in our resources section. But essentially, let's figure out the method that mom wants to count in. Once she's got that method, then we're going to teach her to count every single day. We want to pick the same time every day. So going back to that variability comment that I made around movement, we want the parameters to be the same. We want baby to show up in the same way that they looked every single day. So we're going to pay attention. If your baby is really active at 5:30 at night when you're trying to make dinner, then you should be counting at 5:30 at night, right? So picking a time when they're active. I also will stress right here that this is for every single pregnancy. And please hear me, people in the back. Every single pregnancy should count. This is something else I saw in triage is I would get moms that were on their third, fifth, whatever baby would say to me, well, I learned how to count in my first pregnancy. I know how to do that. And then my next question to them in triage is, okay, well, tell me about your baby's regular movement. And we got crickets, right? And it's not like, I'm not saying that to be a jerk to them, but that's what I need to know. If you're here to be triaged, and we need to know what your baby's normal pattern is. We need to know because you're telling us you're very concerned about your baby. So it's really important that we count for every single baby. I will also say research indicates we have to work to learn what's normal for each baby. Every baby has a different impact on mom. Many of you probably know expectant parents who are very healthy with one pregnancy and very sick with other pregnancies, right? So we need to make sure we're monitoring for every single pregnancy. So we're going to time, we've picked our time, we've picked our method. We're going to time for 10. We're going to see how much time it takes for 10 movements to occur. So whatever method they're using, they're going to count. And when they get to that 10 minutes, they're going to shut it down, right? So we're going to stop our app. We've stopped our band. We've written down on our kick chart. We know what our normal is. Now, if they're using the app, one of the great features of the app is that it will tell them what their normal is. After a few days, it'll say, oh, your normal is 12 minutes. Your normal is 28 minutes. Your normal is 33 minutes, whatever that is. Because by the way, every normal is going to look different. This is why it's so important for each parent to determine what's normal for that baby. So, and I won't say it here, I'll wait for myths. We'll talk about myths later around counting. So after a couple of days, they're going to see what their normal time period is. If they're doing it on the kick chart, then they're going to see because they've written down the time. And then our fifth step is we want them to call their provider if they notice a change in these movements. Now, some people will get into the nitty with me and say, well, what is a change? We are talking about changes in the strength of movements, and we are talking about deviations of more than 5 to 10 minutes. If we're looking at something like that, or if mom says, I know something's not right, we want them to get with their provider. We don't want them to sit on hold. We want them to go in and get with their provider. The trick to this is that when we as humans can talk ourselves out of a problem, and minutes matter when it comes to stillbirth. So it's really important that if you are working with providers, that providers stress, hey, if you've got a concern, come in, because I can guarantee you nobody wants to have the weight of dead babies or moms with them, right? Like we do not want these pregnancies to end in terrible outcomes. And so it's better to just be seen by that provider. Okay. Let me catch my swallow here real quick. So we've talked about methods. Let me tell you about our materials that we have. We have free materials. Now, many of you are coming from different counties today. And so I'm going to do something a little bit different right in this space after I introduce materials. We have brochures and we have app cards available in all these markets. We have English and Spanish in all these markets, but in California, we have a couple different counties. So just want you to know that you're going to see some variables with these counties because we've had different opportunities with funding to add languages or types of material. So as you go in and look at the Count the Kicks website just for your county, please know that there are some differences. You will not pay for shipping. That has been made possible. Thank you to Anthem in all of our markets. So you will have no cost to these materials for you. All right, so let me stop sharing and I'm going to pull up a different screen here because we want you to have the opportunity to see exactly how to order. And as I'm pulling that screen up, I will tell you that we will give away Amazon gift cards today. We will do 2 Amazon gift cards for this webinar for folks that are placing orders today. So if you are from California, you will be entered to win if you attended this webinar. Isn't that awesome? So here's what you will see. If you go to the Count the Kick site, you're going to, if I back up a minute here, we're going to select California. Maybe you're not in California today, and maybe you heard about this webinar. Select the county that you are ordering for. So I'm going to pick Madera because Sylvia came to me. I'm going to pick Madera County. And then you have an opportunity to see all of the things that you can order here. So, we're going to go this extra step so that you can see if I add to the cart, they are back ordered in Madera County, but it's not a big deal. And I'm going to just sharing with you how this is going to look when you get to proceed to checkout. So after you've picked the things that you want, then you can pick either you can ship as an individual or as a company. Now, if you pick as a company, it is pre-populated. This is like one of those Google things, right? Like to make sure our shipping addresses are correct. Madera County Depart. I'm trying to remember, Sylvia, what yours was because I made it work. There's so much pressure on me to type correctly here. We can do a search. And it may come up or it may not, but guess what? You can keep going. So if your county name does not come up or your individual or your institution name doesn't come up, don't panic. Go up and change it to individual. It'll be just fine. I promise you. Okay. Then you'll go through all the steps to put in first name, county, street address. This is a relative of mine. We sent some things to. Okay. You're going to do that. Obviously, I'd have to fix that zipping code there. And then you will place the order. You'll do the confirm the order. It's not going to let me because I have an incorrect zip code for a California project. But hopefully this is making sense to you as you see that. Okay, if you have questions, if something's not working for you, Carrie's on the chat. You can also send us an email. And we would be more than happy to help you get these orders placed. But again, we want you to take the opportunity today to get material. So there's a great question in the chat as I'm coming back into my screen here. There's a great question in the chat about what's the right material? What should I be ordering? Well, I will tell you, it's kind of up to your population. So there is the traditional brochure and there is the at a glance brochure. The at a glance brochure is more health literacy focused. So it's picture based versus our traditional has a little bit more words and language in it. So I think it's up to you to know, but there's no harm in ordering both and just figuring out which one works best for you in your county. I personally, we see a lot more of the at a glance going out because people like the pictures. And that just may be generational attention span. I don't know. But I think all of our materials are great. So, okay. So we've talked about materials. So let's talk about our app. So I asked some of you to download that app. I'm going to ask a question here. This will be our first tumbler giveaway, and Carrie will help me in the chat. As you open the Count the Kicks app, there will be a screen that says start counting after all the little introduction things. How many babies can you count for with the Count the Kicks app? Okay, let's give it a minute. Simone, Carrie's going to help you with your question. All right, how many babies can you use the Count the Kicks app for? And for those of you who are not in there yet, I'm going to start. Oh, there we go. Ursula got it. Ursula got it first, it looks like. So Ursula, Carrie's going to throw my email in the chat. You can send me an email and we will get you a Count the Kicks tumbler. Yvonne?
I think Hannah put 3 first.
Oh,
Hannah
did I miss one? Did I miss one? Hannah did. Oh, dang it. Well, Ursula, I guess I'm sending you one too because I called you out. So Hannah and Ursula, go ahead and send me an email and Carrie puts that in there. So you can count for 3 babies on the Count the Kicks app. There's some really cool features. We've had some people use it with multiples before. So awesome features with Count the Kicks app. So this is what it'll look like. This video that's playing right now, when someone goes in to count, they're presented with like all these like here's the things you can set a reminder every day to count. We want you to make sure you're comfortable, you can pay attention to baby, and then the person who is counting is going to just touch that footprint in the middle every time they feel the baby move. So what will happen is that circle will fill up on the exterior, all those little windows will fill up, and then the time is stopped with the app, right? So then you get an opportunity to enter strength of movement. So was your baby fierce or was your baby fluttery? And whatever is normal for you is normal for that baby and that pregnancy. So that's great. There's a question in the chat. Is the Spanish language option available? Yes. And 25 other languages. So this is an amazing tool because it's completely free and people can have it in the language that they prefer to read and utilize it with. So that's a great feature as well. It's available on Apple and Android products. So that's another thing. You can use it on iPads. You can use it on smartwatches. You have the ability to use this app wherever. But like I said in the beginning, apps may not be for everyone, but we do want you to engage with the app. So take a minute right now. We're going to give you some time to take a minute. You can finish up those orders. You can practice with the app. We'd love to know if you have some questions, because one of the things that is so important about educating people about Count the Kicks is you need to be able to speak to experience using the app, right? It's pretty intuitive, but you need to be able to answer and troubleshoot questions if they come up. So take a minute right now to make sure you've downloaded the app. You will also notice that you need to register for the app. We are not selling information. We are not doing any kind of data mining on this. This is simply so if you are using it on your phone one day and you decide to go use it on your iPad, you can, and you'll still have that data to track. So this one factor around that is people need to register. So you'll see the opportunity to just run a practice tracking session. And let me give you about 30 seconds to do that. I'm going to type a response to a question I have in the chat, and I'm going to take a drink, and then we're going to come back and keep talking. Okay. All right. Any questions coming up about the app yet? Okay. So as you can see there, one of the things on the slide that we say is teach parents that they need to trust their instincts. No one knows their baby like they do. So please make sure that this is something as a teaching point, that we are paying attention to that. And we are teaching folks that they should be paying attention and speaking up if they notice a change. So here's some other app features that I just want to call out. So recently we added, sorry, that's a little bit off there, isn't it? We added a contraction timer. You can also, for those who get interested in using those printable kick charts, you can actually use your phone to scan that into the app. It's called OCR technology. Don't ask me what it is. It's optical something. But basically you have the opportunity to bring that data over, and that's really kind of a cool factor. There's other things that are awesome about this app. We could spend an entire hour talking about the app, but another great opportunity that we've had to develop is the use of AI technology with our app. So we have something called Ask Anna. And Ask Anna is the opportunity to work with in the app in a closed system. And actually, that's called an open AI system, and that makes no sense. But we have several research articles that our medical advisory board has determined these are the sources of truth that we want folks, if they have questions of information, we want them to get evidence-based information to respond to those. Now, this is not at all medical advice. This is things like people will type in like, why don't you count hiccups? Or what is the best time to track movement? So this is an opportunity to learn more about fetal movement monitoring from research sources. This is not Dr. Google. This is not Nurse TikTok. This is simply looking at this information in this closed system. And then we can learn from what Anna is hearing, like what are the conversations that are happening with Anna. We can learn how we need to adjust parent-facing education. To speak to languages, ask Anna. I don't remember the exact number of languages Anna is available in, but it's more than 13 at this point. So we are continuing to develop Ask Anna and make it available. Something else that you can find within our website is our Find Help. You can link to Find Help. This is something that I worked with the California Surgeon General, Dr. Ramos. She was very interested in the fact that we had Find Help in our app. So this is an opportunity to find those low cost or no cost resources that are tied to those social drivers of health. Things like diaper banks, things like oral health, food banks, employment assistance, all of that can be found in the Find Help. And so at one touch, this maternal app is giving you all of this information just right at the fingertips. So, okay, that's a lot about implementing our program, or it's the materials. Let's talk about the implementation of our program as we're kind of winding down some time together today. So we have many tools to help you implement in whatever system you are working in. If that's a hospital, if that's a clinic, if that is a community agency, maybe you're a doula, we have lots of different tools. So if you want waiting room messaging to play on a TV, we have that. If you want a phone call message when people are on hold and you don't want to listen to that banging music that always shows up every 6 months like clockwork on social media, people dancing to it, we have that option for you. You can embed this into your after visit summaries. You can embed Count the Kicks information into EHR. There's lots of different ways. So please let us know what you're looking for, because we have many different opportunities that can help you with that implementation. We want to make sure every patient that is expecting a baby hears about Count the Kicks, and they hear about it early. We want them to know that they should begin this in the 3rd trimester. And the best time to start talking about that is when they're engaging with prenatal care. Research tells us not everybody's doing the nine months of prenatal care. So at the first opportunity, and they're not doing it with regularity either. So at the first opportunity we have to talk to them about healthy pregnancies, this should be an option with that. Okay. So I'm going to move from implementation to talking a little bit about misconceptions. And I invite you to share with me some questions that you have or you may have received about fetal movement monitoring. And I'm going to tell you, let's just acknowledge cute little baby save Catherine right there. These babies, I just love, this is the best part of our job, is seeing these baby faces. So one of the most common misconceptions that we hear is that babies should get 10 kicks in 2 hours. Now listen, I went to nursing school in 1996 and 97, and this is what I was taught. This is what I was taught was the gold standard of counting. We were going to get 10 kicks in 2 hours. We had nothing to worry about. If we had 10 kicks in 2 hours, everything was good with mom and baby. And what research tells us now is that that is not the case for all pregnancies. And so we need to work to understand what the normal is for that mama and that pregnancy. Very different than the language of 10 kicks in 2 hours, because for some moms, 2 hours may mean the difference between life and death for their baby. So we really want people to understand what's normal for them. I spoke a little bit about this myth before, and I'll just put it back out here. Kick counts are best monitored without any kind of intervention. And so when we interfere, we're actually changing those variables, and we could be masking what baby's normal is. So let's not do that. Let's not encourage that. And this is also something in the communities from well-meaning family members, neighbors, whatever it is, They hear that. They see that on the internet. We do not want to encourage this because we may mask what's really happening with mom and baby. Another misconception that happens, and particularly thinking about our rural counties here, unless someone has been instructed by their healthcare provider and given a script for some kind of device to monitor, typically it's like a Doppler. A lot of people just order these off Amazon and think that they have it for their baby. They know what's going on, and this cannot be farther than the truth. For those of you who've worked in labor and delivery, you know that baby is best monitored by a non-stress test. And what does an NST measure? It measures baby's heart rate and reaction to a contraction. It is not monitoring just a heart rate. We're monitoring mom, we're monitoring baby, and we're monitoring what's going on with those contractions when they happen. Very, very nuanced, right? So you can't see this with an at-home Doppler, and we should not give that false sense of security to folks. And again, I say this, if someone has a prescription for this, if there's monitoring being done through telehealth, this is a very different conversation, right? I'm talking about our folks that are just going and ordering this stuff online without any kind of training and knowledge. So really want to not lean into that one. Okay, so as we come to, we're coming to the end, I want to allow for some time for you to ask some questions and give me some feedback. I do want to share some resources with you in a little more depth, but let's talk about next steps. So the first thing is to familiarize yourself. Hopefully you've learned about Count the Kicks today enough to get you started, right? Like, let's get you started. Practice with the app, order those materials, figure out what kinds of materials are best for your population that you're working with. So ordering is really important. It looks like Carrie was able to troubleshoot with a couple folks. But making sure, this is another tip that we've received, is if you're a part of a larger practice, who's in charge of making sure Count the Kicks doesn't run out? Like, you have it available for everybody. Like, put a point person on that. Take time to educate every single time you see an expectant parent in a practice. We want to make sure we're having this counting conversation early and often so that it becomes, this is what I need to do in the third trimester, and I need to do it with fidelity. I need to understand how my baby is doing and how my body is doing in response to my baby being on board. Make sure that everybody knows about Count the Kicks, from the front desk staff who can have the app cards available for ordering right there at the front desk. Oh, you're here for a prenatal, making sure you know about Count the Kicks. Like, that's an easy thing, right? When they go back to room with the MAs or the CNAs or whomever it is that's checking somebody in with vitals, having that conversation to be a part of that vitals. Are you counting the kicks? Tell me about that. Ask open-ended questions. Tell me what time of day your baby moves the best, so that you're not just getting a yes, no, you're actually getting some information about how your patient is counting. Debunking myths. I didn't see any that came in the chat, but they'll come up, right? People will ask questions and you'll go, I wonder what the answer to that is. Feel free to reach out to us at Healthy Birthday and just ask us how to respond to those questions. We are more than happy. If we don't have an answer, we will research and get you an evidence-based answer. And then just remembering, I know I've said this in a couple different ways today, minutes matter when it comes to this. And I'll say it again, minutes matter. And so we need to work to understand what those minutes mean for each baby and for each mom, okay? So this cute little baby Jasmine, I just love Jasmine in her bonnet. We've had an opportunity to talk about materials. We want to make sure that those are in your hands. We want to make sure you don't have any questions about the materials, because we want you to use them. So if you have questions about our materials, let us know. This is just a deeper picture, a better picture of what our at a glance looks like, so that you can see our poster is on the left. The brochure is on the right. And when you flip that brochure open, you get a beautiful picture of babies, multicultural baby representation there. And the steps, those 1 through 3, are also listed there. So we love seeing those materials. That bright yellow, that's a sign Count the Kicks is in the house. I talked about movement bands. Again, these are only available in certain areas in California right now. But if you have this opportunity, check out the monitoring bands and see if they're right for you. They're very popular with certain populations that may not engage with technology or may not have an opportunity to engage with technology. I had somebody very early in my days here with the wristbands. Somebody was working a factory job and said, I can't like use a phone because I'm doing my factory work, but what I can do is move that slider. And so for her, if her counting was at the same time as her shift, she could pay attention to the clock on the wall. She knew what time to start and she could just move that band every time. And then when she got to 10 movements, what time did I stop? And she could go write that down on her break, right? So there's a lot of different ways people use our monitoring bands. They also use them for post-pregnancy to remind them to drink water, which side to start nursing on, anything like that. This is a picture of our downloadable paper kick counting chart. So you can see that and all the languages that it comes in. I know Carrie threw a link in the chat earlier. This is our digital resource that I shared with you, those 5 easy steps. You can get this, you can sign up for it, embed it into materials. You can text it to folks, you can email it to folks. We also have, for those of you who are doulas, we have an opportunity. We have a doula guide to count the kicks. So if you want to know, we know doulas work really well with patients, and they often have more than 15 minutes of time scheduled with patients, right? So this is a very specific guide to things that can be included in those prenatal appointments with doulas. Role playing. How do you have a count the kicks conversation with a doctor who may not know about this, or how do you advocate for yourself? Like role playing. Doulas are the perfect partner to practice role playing and to reduce some of those anxieties around these conversations. So this is completely free. Carrie's throwing the link in the chat to you. We are working, just so you know, something that will be coming later in the year is a Spanish translation of that doula guide. So right now it's only in English. But hopefully we can get some feedback on that and get new languages added as well. If you're interested in being champions for Count the Kicks, you want to train the trainer model, we have an opportunity for you. Please let us know. Email Carrie or I. We would be happy to engage with you. We also have this QR code, and Carrie's dropping a link in the chat. And finally, just before I take questions, we have a lot of social media presence, and we offer a lot of content through our Count the Kicks channels that is repostable for families. So whatever organization you work for, we have the opportunity to provide this education. Our social media manager is phenomenal. She's really good at what she does. And so if you would like an opportunity to connect with families, give them more education and have it be Count the Kick space, we would love for you to engage with that and follow us on our newsletter. Learn about launches like we're doing here in Madera County today. Learn about opportunities to learn. So I've said a lot. I've been talking at you for 40 minutes, and I would love to hear if there are any questions. I know Carrie's been busy in the chat, or if Yvonne or Sylvia want to say anything, I can stop and be quiet for that. Okay, looks like one question in the chat. Our education material is free. If you are in a county outside of, let me do this alphabetically. So Fresno, San Bernardino, nope, I'm not alphabetical. Fresno, LA County, Madera County, and San Bernardino. There is a cost to materials if you are outside of that 4-county range right now. Anthem has partnered with us in the 4 counties. We believe that most of the folks here are probably from Madera or Fresno County, but if you are not, then there is a fee for those materials. It is very nominal. Each pack of materials is $7.50. So 25 brochures, $7.50. And then there's a flat shipping fee. So if you are outside of that 4-county radius, you probably are going to encounter that cost there. All right, Carrie, were there any other questions?
I had a question.
Sure, yeah.
So I was just wondering, do you guys have stories to share for those like moms that don't buy in to Count the Kicks? Like they feel like, oh, that's a waste of time. Like you were saying, oh, you know, I had 4 pregnancies before. This is my fifth. Like, how do you connect with them to educate them? Like, here's this, do you guys have stories to share, or what would your recommendation?
I think the recommendation that I have, so we have something called, let me pull up the page where our baby safe stories are. I think that's one of the biggest tools that we have is just that impact story. And we do post those on social media, where save stories. So we are now looking in 2026 at mom saves as well. And so I think that that is something that we could use feedback from the community on in how do I engage if a parent is telling me they don't need to do it? They may be lucky and there may be nothing that happens in their pregnancy. And, that's fantastic and wonderful for them. But so many stories that we hear are not baby saves. There are stories like, why didn't my provider tell me that stillbirth was a risk? Why wasn't I taught to utilize fetal movement? Those are more often the stories that we're hearing. And so if we can make a difference in providing education around how this is an evidence-based practice, this is a healthy pregnancy practice, and we can get it into everyone's mind that this is something that you should do as a part of your pregnancy. I think I'm hoping, Yvonne, that gives a little bit of guidance to you on that question, but I think that's something that we struggle to know, like what can we do as an organization also?
I had one more question.
Yeah.
So how do moms respond when they call in and they're given that false information? Because I've, in the past, that's what we were told to tell the parents. Oh, just drink something cold, something sugary.
Yep.
And so a lot of us, we have to unlearn things that we've learned in the past. And sometimes that can be hard. But how do moms respond? Like, how do you tell them, like, hey, you really have to advocate for yourself, know that this is wrong? How do you have them respond to that false?
So that is, and as I was pointing out about the digital doula guide, that it's such a great question, Yvonne. What you said about we have to unlearn some things that we have to learn. So this is multi-pronged approach. We have to, one, make sure that providers know from the top down, OBGYNs, nurse managers, to the labor and delivery floor nursing, excuse me, to the clinic staff. This is evidence-based, right? So we have to teach them. And we also have to teach them to listen to families. And this is something we've been talking about for decades, right? Like respecting parents' voice. And if you feel like you can't listen to a patient, then perhaps you should not be practicing, right? Like that is something that I think our A1 pathway will help re-educate folks around the evidence behind responding to that movement. Now, to your question, how do moms respond? We hear a variety of things, right? There were a couple of stories this fall about moms that were sent away and ended up having stillbirths. Nationally, they went in the case of one mom in the Midwest, she went in multiple times over a weekend and was turned away every time, told to drink cold water, told to go home and lay down, told to check in with her provider on Monday. And Sunday, when she went in for, I think it was the fourth time, that baby was gone, right? And so stories like that really underscore teaching patients how to advocate and push back. If they're told, oh, yeah, you just need to talk to your provider. No, I'm here to be monitored, right? Like I have a concern, you're not listening to me. And Jen Hamilton, an influencer, has talked about just responding to those comments. She does a wonderful job of that, of just sharing some of that language around being an expectant parent that says, nope, I'm advocating for myself. I need a different nurse or I need a different provider. If you're not going to listen to me, I need to be monitored. I need to know that my baby is normal. This is my data that I'm listening to that tells me X. I want you to evaluate me. Like we need patients to understand that it's okay for them to say that. It's okay for them to advocate for themselves. And it's okay for partners to advocate for those moms too, right? Like if mom can't do it herself, it's okay for you as the partner to also advocate. So I'm clearly getting my emotions up about that one.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I don't think there was any other questions, so I was gonna kind of move towards our closing remarks. I'd like to thank everyone for coming and attending our Count the Kicks roundtable. Thank you, Sarah, for this amazing presentation on the evidence-based Count the Kicks campaign. It was very informative, educational, resourceful, and with the knowledge that we've gained today, we can help expecting parents learn about their baby's normal movement patterns in the third trimester, which is like a daily checkup, and also teach them to notify, report to providers when a change or abnormal activity is noted, and most importantly, to trust the parent's instinct. So attendees, let's ensure every parent knows to count the kicks every day in the third trimester for every pregnancy to help see fewer stillbirths. Share these resources with the clinics, community centers, and parents. I thank you guys all for attending. I also, once again, would like to thank Anthem Blue Cross for their generous funding to bring Count the Kicks and the resources along with them to Fresno and Madera County. So thank you, Anthem. As mentioned at the beginning of the roundtable, we have posted links in the chat for evaluation. There's a general evaluation, and then there's an evaluation for RNs who would like one CEU for Count the Kicks. So fill out the appropriate evaluation. And I do want to note that it's available now, not until 5 p.m. I'm sorry, just for a correction. Okay. Any questions? All right.
Yes, we will make sure that everybody has a follow-up to the recording and the slides.
I'm going to stay on for a couple minutes just so people can access the evaluation links and fill it out. If you guys have any questions, thanks again for joining. And again, thank you, Sarah and your team for this was awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us. Thanks everybody for spending your day with us.